to Studio B. My name is Adam Stonebreaker, and we're going to put together a lot of what we've learned in the previous lessons. We'll do about a 30-minute practice with a little meditation and some yin yoga postures. So let's get started here. So we'll start in just a seat, regular meditation seat. And feeling the ground beneath you. So we feel the legs pulled down by gravity, and then we just slightly lift out of the crown of the head. Drawing attention to the body, noticing how you feel. Again, not judging how we feel, just noticing, just registering how we feel. And then just bringing some attention to the breath. Remembering this idea of the 360 breath. So we don't just do that when the breath is deep, we do it all the time. So as I inhale, I feel this downward motion, and then breathing into the back and out to the sides in all directions. And then as I exhale, I keep the lift and just allow the air to leave. So I don't collapse. I just allow the air to leave. Breathing in and exhale. And when you first start doing this, it's a practice, but over time it begins to be the way you breathe. So just stick with it. This is a breath we want to try to maintain throughout the entirety of the practice, even when we're in postures. Just a few more breaths, just like this. Good. And now we're going to transition to the back and grab a prop. I'm going to use a block, but you could also use something soft like a pillow. And we're just going to turn, grab behind the legs, and just slowly come down. I'm going to grab my block here, and then press into the feet, lift up, and then put that prop underneath the sacrum. Underneath the hips, you could say. So just pausing here for a moment. I can bring the hands to the belly, or the chest, or bring the arms out to the side. Draw the shoulders down if your shoulders feel a little crunched, so the chest is nice and open, and just be here. If you'd like, you could take this a little further, and you can begin to walk the feet forward into what we call pontoon. So at first I press the heels and stretch out, but then I just let my legs go. And then the hands, again, can be, and the arms can be as they were, or you could bring them above the head. Sometimes we'll even interlace the fingers behind the head for a little pillow. But whatever is most comfortable for you, that's the least important part of this pose. What this pose is for is for the lower back. So we just take our time and breathe. Just letting the body breathe. When the mind gets carried off, or your attention gets carried off with various thoughts or worries or whatevers, just come back to the breath. The mind is gonna think. The brain's gonna think. That's what it does. That's its job. But we can choose to bring our attention to the breath, which takes some practice, but that's what we're doing here. We're doing practice. If this pontoon position becomes uncomfortable, you can always walk the feet back in and come back into the supported bridge. Just a few more breaths here. Feel free to stay here a little bit longer if you'd like to. When you're ready, you can begin to press into the feet. Lift up just enough to remove your block or your pillow and just come all the way back down into a more neutral position. Just pause. And then just take your hands and place them on the hips here. And what we're going to do is just roll the hips forward and back. So you might roll the pelvis toward the tip of the tailbone and then roll the pelvis back, lifting the tip of the tailbone. It's a really simple movement, but a very important one. So we're just rolling just a few times. And then next time you roll away from the tip of the tailbone, just slightly lifting up off the ground like you were coming into bridge, and then just come back down. Yeah. Just a little movement after the stillness. Do this as many times as you'd like. And then after you're finished, we're just going to drop over to one side, press ourselves up, and then come around to fours. We'll bring the hands underneath the shoulders. And then on an inhale, we'll drop the belly down, and then bring the heart forward. Shoulders draw down the back, broaden the collarbones, lift the chin and the tailbone. And then exhale, pull the belly in, press the hands into the ground, lift the back of the heart towards the ceiling, drop the head and the tailbone. And then inhale. Same thing. And then exhale. So bringing the movement and the breath together here. And then from here, we're just going to come all the way out to the belly. This is what we call Sphinx pose. Yeah. And we just bring the elbows underneath the shoulders, roughly. So you can bring the elbows a little bit forward if you'd like to. If this is too much back bend for you. You can experiment with the distance between the legs, so maybe a little bit wider, a little bit closer. You could also take a cushion or a pillow and place that underneath the rib cage. Feels a little bit more supportive. You could do that. And then the hands can be together or down, interlaced. It really doesn't matter. What does matter though is we want to ground through the elbows and just slightly open the chest. So we lift the chest and draw the shoulders away from the ears. Relax the legs. Relax the belly. An option here as well in the beginning is to just raise and lower the shoulders a few times, just to create some mobility in the shoulders, so bringing some attention there. Yeah. Even rolling the shoulders back and down and forward and up, and then maybe forward, down, back, and up. Just doing that a few times, a few rounds of that. Not the entire time, but just maybe at the beginning we do it a few times, and then arrive in stillness. Remember that 360-degree breath, so the ribs are moving out in all directions. And contracting back as you release. Stay with it now, just a few more breaths here. Releasing as much as you can on the exhale. And then when you're ready to release, just bring your hands out in front of you and just make a little pillow. Place your head on that pillow. Bring that palms down to the ground. Press back to all fours again. And we'll just move to what we call cow and cat. And so when we inhale and drop the belly and bring the heart forward, that's cow. And then when we round and exhale, that's cat, like a scared cat. Inhale. And exhale. You might even switch up this movement and just move the hips in circles here just to vary it up a little bit. Yeah, and then we'll begin to make our way to a seat. Yeah, and I'd just like to pause here in a meditation seat for a moment. I like to come back often to just that original breath. And now we'll move into our next posture, which we call half butterfly. And so what we'll do is just extend the right leg out and then bring the left foot in. And I actually like to sit up a little bit, so I usually grab a rolled up blanket or something, or a pillow, and just sit up a little bit. It just allows for a little bit more space in the hamstrings for me. And then we'll move toward the leg. And we're going to fold towards the leg. Now, you don't have to fold right over the leg. You don't have to. You can fold to the outside of the leg. You can fold to the inside of the leg. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we're getting some stretch in the back of the leg, because this pose is meant for the hamstrings. Something else you could do is take a block or a rolled up blanket and put that underneath the knee. That'll help create a little bit more space for the hamstrings as well. So we turn towards the leg, and then we just simply kind of think of yourself lengthening out, over, and then coming down. In fact, you might do that a few times. You might come up, out, over, and then down. So we want a sensation in the back of the leg, whether it's in the calf or the hamstrings. You might also get some sensation in the lower back here. Perfectly okay. Though our focus is the hamstrings, you might feel the posture in other places. And that's good, because that means that those places are beginning to get some attention drawn to them. Some people like a little bit more support when they come forward, so you could take something like a pillow and put it on your leg. Do something like this. And just simply breathe. As we've been doing. Something you might find valuable here to do is just the slightest rocking side to side. You might not even notice that I'm rocking. It's really subtle. Just a few more breaths here. So we'll begin to come out of this now. Just slowly come up. And just lifting here. And then we'll slowly transition to the other side. So I'll just bring this foot in and then lengthen the left leg out, adjust my seat. Again, you can always put a block underneath this knee here to create more space in the hamstrings. Sometimes I'll even use my arm if I don't have a block or a towel. Turn towards the leg. Now this side might be a little different. It might be a lot different as far as sensation and shape. So, and that's okay. That doesn't really matter. We just want to serve each side separately. So turning towards the leg, and then again this idea of coming up, out, over, and then down. A few times like that. If you like the pillow on the other side, it might be helpful here as well. Relax the leg, relax the foot, relax the toes. After about a minute or so, been here probably about a minute, and your body starts to expand a little bit, create a little bit more space. And you might not be able to feel much sensation anymore. So if you have a pillow or something, you might come off the pillow and come down a little bit more. And you might regain that sensation. Or just like the slightest shift to one side or the other might allow you to regain that sensation. Remember your breath, just like in the beginning. Slow, mindful, complete, 360 degrees. Few more breaths here. See if you can relax a little bit more. And then we'll inhale, begin to come all the way back up. And then just cross the legs back in. Just pause once again with your breath. You know, we've built up lots of patterns over years and years, breath patterns, the way we hold the body, things like this. So when we start to become more aware, we have to constantly remind ourselves about these things. And so I know when I first started to become more aware of my breath, I put up little reminders, signs, little post-it notes that just said breathe around, and or just be mindful, things like that. And then after a while, it just becomes who you are, and you don't have to remind yourself anymore. In the beginning, it can be, a little bit tedious to keep reminding yourself, but also keep reminding yourself that this is a practice. This is something that takes some time, and so lots of love and compassion for yourself in that process. And so for our next pose, we're just going to bring our legs out wide. I'll give you a couple different options here. Call this dragonfly. Now, you might be okay doing what I'm doing here. I'm actually still sitting on that blanket, which I think is very helpful. You might even sit higher if you want to. You could also bring a little bend to the knees, or bend the knees a lot, putting something underneath both knees. The other option is to bring the soles of the feet together and bring the heels in a little bit tight. Don't crank the heels in, but just enough to where you start to feel something on the inner legs and in the groin. It's very helpful. And then whatever position you have found, sit up, release the legs. You can bring the hands down to the ground. You might just stay up like this, or you might begin to walk the hands forward. eventually even rounding down if you'd like. If you like to use the prop, or you have a pillow or something, you can put that here. Put the hands and the arms on it. This is something I like to do. And once again, just allow yourself to relax. There's nowhere we're trying to get. We're not trying to reach a particular shape. We're not trying to bring our chest to the ground. Nothing like that. This practice is not an achievement-oriented practice as far as shape goes or posture. We're just trying to be with ourselves as fully as possible. In a previous video, I mentioned how yoga and meditation, these practices aren't linear. One day you'll be a little bit tighter than the next day. One day the mind will be very much busier than the next day. One day you'll be very calm. So it's helpful not to think of the practices in a linear way. It's very much a process and different. Even at various times during the day, you're going to be different. So be patient with yourself, and compassion is the number one rule here. Once again, after about a minute, you might feel that your tissues have opened up a little bit, and you might be able to come out a little bit further. Don't force it. Let the body decide, not the mind. Rock. Another 30 seconds here or so. Allow an inhale to float you back up very slowly. Be very patient as you come up. Our transitions between poses should be mindful as well. So we're going to go slow. Yeah, and then just lean back a little bit, grab the insides of the knees, and bring the legs back in. Pausing here. All right, we're going to transition back down to the back. So you might have your block handy. I'm going to show you some stuff with that. An easy transition is to grab the backs of the legs and just lower yourself down. Yeah, and we're just going to walk the feet in. Bring the feet a little bit wide and just drop the knees from side to side at first. Call this windshield wiper. It's really nice for the hips and the spine. Just a few times. Come back to center, and we're going to come into a pose we call Eye of the Needle. And You might use a block for this. I'll show you how in a second. But first we just want to bring our right ankle to our left knee. Now this might be enough for you. What we're trying to contact is the right glutes, the right hip. And so this might be good enough. Something else you can do is take your block, put it down here, and then put this left foot up. That gives you a little bit more space. That might be good enough for you. The other thing you can do is bring your right arm through your legs, and then bring your left arm to the outside of the left leg, and then interlace around the hamstrings. And then you can stay like this, or pull that knee in a little bit more. Make sure there's some space in the back of the neck, there's some length there. Yeah, because we don't want it crunched up. And then just stay here. You could also always use, a stack of blocks or a stack of props to put under this left foot if your arms or wrists or shoulders are fatigued. But if you're fine holding it like this is good. Breathing, always reminding yourself. From time to time, it's nice to take a nice big inhale and maybe even sigh the breath away, quiet sigh. Rocking side to side is something I like to utilize in this posture as well. So you might just shift from side to side, and you might find just the slightest little shift will open up a whole new place in that right hip. So something that simple can be profound. Release this when you're ready. Just bring that left foot down, bring the right foot down. Pause here in neutral. And when you pause in neutral, just notice the effect of the posture. You might feel what we call the rebound. So you might feel just the effect of the release. And then we're just going to go right into the next side. So the left ankle to right knee. And you can use the block underneath the right foot. You can also bring the left arm through the legs, the right arm to the outside, interlace behind the right hamstring. Some people will even hike up to the shin, especially those who have long arms. It's a lot easier. And then settle in. Again, make sure your neck's not all crunched up like this. want it lengthened. Yeah, a little rocking, settling in, and eventually softening into stillness. Just a few more breaths here. Relax a little more. Maybe a big breath. Just release down. Once again, right foot down and left foot down. Pause. Yeah, and then we'll windshield wipe the knees once again. Slow with this, deliberate. So we feel every little nuance. Yeah, and then we'll come back to center, bring the knees into the chest, and just circle the knees a few times. Like you're massaging the low back. Yeah. Yeah. And then we're just going to keep the knees in and just drop the knees over to one side. Yeah. And then I like to bring the left hand out to the right thigh or knee, and then reach the right arm out to the right. You could also reach up at an angle if that's better. You could also bring the hand to the rib if your shoulders aren't comfortable doing that, the reaching. And with a twist, I like to implement a breath count here, just so we make sure to really empty the breath on the exhale. And so I'll usually do a 5 count inhale and just a 5 count exhale, a really simple breath. And so if we empty the breath all the way, and then we just inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just keep going with that. You may notice in the transition from the inhale to the exhale and the exhale to the inhale that there's a little pause in the breath that's natural. You might begin to emphasize that pause. Just maybe a little bit more time is spent there. Just a few more rounds of that breath. All right, we'll come back to center. Just bring the feet flat and be neutral. It's important between the sides of the twist to come into neutral. There's just a lot of connective tissue wrapped around the spine, and when we hold for that long, it all begins to transform, and then we come back to center, and it takes time for it to readjust. So, yeah, just taking a little time. And then when you're ready, we'll pull the knees in, circle those knees. And then we'll just drop over to the right. I like to bring the hips over to the left a little, and then right hand to the outside of the knee or thigh, and reach out to the left. As far as the head and neck go, I suggest just looking straight up, just so the neck isn't too strained. Sometimes when we're way over here or way over here, it can just create some imbalance and some unneeded strain in the neck. So just being neutral with the neck. The neck's pretty flexible, naturally. And the vertebra and the tissues in the neck are smaller, and so they don't need as much time to open up, to lengthen. Now remember the breath count here. I'll lead you through a few. So let's exhale together all the way. And then inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, and then exhale, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Just keep going with that. Another 30 seconds or so. Relax more if you can. Especially in places not really involved in the pose, like the jaw and the eyes and the hands, belly. Come back to center, again coming back to neutral. Pause. Let's pull the knees in, circle the knees. One way and then the other way. And then either bring your feet down to the ground and pause here in this bridge sort of pose. We also call this constructive rest. Or you can come out to what we call Shavasana. Lengthen out, let the legs go. Shoulder blades move down the back. You can bring the arms out wide. Shake a little bit, any of the tension out of the body. And then take a big breath in and out. A few of those. And just relax completely, feeling the connection with the ground, but also feeling the openness of the upper body, or the front body. to start moving, just begin by maybe fluttering the eyes open, just gradually allowing light in. Maybe you just sort of move the brow and the jaw, the tongue, and fingers and toes, just little by little by little, no need to rush. Circle the wrists and the ankles, and then just start to stretch and just gradually open. You can walk the feet in, bring the knees in, hug yourself. I'll usually drop over to one side and just pause for a moment. And then press yourself up slowly to a seat. Yeah. And again, coming back to the breath, always coming back to the breath. It's our most important part of our practice. Really the most fundamental part of being alive is breathing. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this practice. Feel free, if you do this practice again, to pause if you want to hold things a little bit longer, and or to just use part of the practice for your needs. This is for you, to adapt to your lifestyle and your needs. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention, and happy practice.